So this new novel is about race, it's about love, and it is about hair. So finally I get to talk about hair. You say that hair is a politic thing, so why?
I mean, I said that half in jest, really, but I think it is. I think that my hair, as it is now, most people would look at me and think, what the... I think people do make judgments about hair, and I think particularly for women, and particularly for black women. I think, you know, because the world is this incredibly globalized place, and what we define as beauty has become so homogenized, it's become one thing, really. And so for many black women, beauty has become, you have to look like Beyonce. And when you choose not to, then it becomes strange. And when you choose to wear your hair the way it grows from your head, it becomes a political statement, when often it isn't, right? But I think one of the things I wanted to write about in this book is just to start to push back at the idea of a single way of defining beauty. And also simply to say that it's a very strange thing that somehow our society has decided that beauty is one thing, and then the rest of us somehow have to contort ourselves to fit that. And when you're born and the hair on your head just doesn't look like the hair that society has defined as beautiful, I just find it very odd that you then spend a lot of time and chemicals and heat trying to get it to...
You write about one special hairdo. So in what way is this hair political? This is Michelle Obama.
Well, I have a friend who's an Englishman, and after he read Americanah, he said to me, "Do you mean Michelle Obama's hair doesn't grow like that from her head?" And I said, "No, it doesn't." I think actually there's a bit of a weave in there, but it's been, if not a relaxer, then at least heat. It's been straightened. That may not be political, but imagine if she appeared one day with an afro. Obama would lose all the votes because people would think, oh my God, she's a Black Panther or something. But it might simply be that she gets tired of... but she can't. I mean, that's what I find very interesting. I don't think Michelle Obama just couldn't make the choice to go natural because it would have major political consequences. Yes.
Yeah. Ifemelu, your main character in this novel, she goes to America from Nigeria to study, and she discovers this completely new perspective on race. She even starts a blog about this that becomes very successful. And she says that it's when she arrives in America, that's the first time she discovers that she's black.
Yes.
So what is it that she discovers?
She takes on a new identity. I mean, one of the... and so very much like me, where I didn't think of myself as black when I was in Nigeria. I didn't need to. So we identify on the basis of ethnicity and religion, but not race, because we don't need to. And I think it would be different if I were from South Africa, maybe even Kenya, but Nigeria, no. And when I went to the US, it was a very strange thing, because it's one thing to know intellectually that there's race in America, and I had seen Roots and that sort of thing, but it's quite another to sit in a class, and the professor comes in, and he has a pile of papers. It's the first essay we've written for the class. And he says, this is the best essay, and I want to know who wrote it. And he calls my name. And I raised my hand, and on his face, I saw surprise. And it was a very small, fleeting moment. But it was a moment where I realized that for him, it was surprising that a black person had written the best essay.
Why? Because it was the best, or what was the subject?
No, it didn't matter what the subject was. The point was it was the best essay in class. And America is a world in which black people don't do the best things. Black people are not expected to do the best things. And in the few cases when they do, it's a thing of surprise.
Yeah.
And I think when you're a child, just imagine, and I remember finding it quite silly, because I'd come from Nigeria and I thought, you know, surely he knows Nigerians are all brilliant, right? But it was a moment where, when I look back now, that's when I started to realize the question isn't really one of, are we different? Because we look different, right? And which I think is a wonderful thing. I love the diversity of the world. I think it's problematic because we ascribe value to those differences. And so I realized that it just wasn't that I had become black. It was that in America, when you're black, it came with many assumptions. And I found it strange. And it was a learning experience because, you know, I had to learn to take on this identity. I had to learn to understand the nuances. And I think in some ways, women of all colours, I think, can in some ways identify, because women who are sort of sensitive to gender, something happens and you know it's because of gender, but you can't always explain it. And so a man will say to you, oh, you're wrong, it wasn't about being a woman. But you know. And in some ways, race is like that in America. It's very subtle, it's nuanced, and you start to learn it slowly and start to sort of get what it means, right? But so in some ways, I wanted to write about that. I mean, my experience was much milder than Efemelo's. And because my life is so boring, I can't really write about my life. It wouldn't make a good novel. So I've used people's experiences, I've dramatized things, but really essentially the same thing, which is what it means to take on an identity that you don't have a choice in. Yeah. You know, you don't get asked whether or not you want to be black.
No. And it's like the identity that takes over everything.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, this is a story not only about race and hair, but mainly actually about love. Yes. And you said that you wanted to write an unapologetically old-fashioned love story. I did. So what do you mean by an old-fashioned love story?
Well, I think the sort of story, Americanah. I think, well, here's the thing. When men write love stories, we call it great literature. When women write love stories, we call them love stories. And I wanted to
I can call your book a great literature.
Thank you.
About love.
No, but I don't. And it's also interesting because I've often been asked, somehow, you know, why a love story? As though somehow one needs to justify the choice to write about love. I wanted to write about love. I love love. I think love is, you know, in the way that I think we all need food, I think we all need love and different kinds of love. And so I wanted to write about the love of two people in this very old-fashioned way, which is the idea of the soulmate. You meet when you're much younger. Life somehow draws you apart, and at some point you meet, and we don't know whether you're going to be together or not. But and I wanted a kind of I didn't want it to be too drenched in irony. I didn't want it to be cynical. I wanted a love that was unafraid to be lushly about love.
Yeah, this is a love that transcends time and place, actually. So do you believe in it yourself, this soulmate?
In books, yes.
But not in life.
I don't know.
I presume you haven't found yours yet.
Have you found yours?
I hope so, but I also think that every love you find should be the one. Think about that.
I will.
So when you were here a year ago, you said that you were a hopeless romantic, pretending not to be. So have you stopped pretending now, at least?
Actually, I haven't stopped pretending. It's terrible. I still pretend. I like to, and every day I wake up, I zip on my armor of cynicism and face the world. But deep inside, you know, really, deep inside, I just really want a world where everyone gets along and everyone is happy. But somehow you have to wrap it all up in big talk.
It's a good thing that you can write great literature about love in that case. But finally, I have to ask you, because in the thank you note in this book, you write that you're grateful to your family for saying Jessika just when you needed to hear it. What does that mean?
Jessika, it means work harder. But that's not really what it means, right? So it's really a way of saying, we have your back, we encourage you, keep going. And it's just lovely when you're in the middle of something and sometimes when it's not going well and then that happens, you just, you know.
Yeah. Well, Jessika, thank you, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie.